here are 7 Etsy seller mistakes you need to avoid if you're just starting out an Etsy store. And I've been doing this for a while and I've made a lot of mistakes on my own, as well as helping others and seeing the pattern that people are making. So if you're just starting out, definitely check out this video. I think it'll help you out a ton if you're starting out an Etsy store. So let's get into it. Number 1, your shop is too broad. I see a lot of people opening up general stores, and in a lot of cases, it definitely works. But if you're in the digital product space, a lot of times I see the shops that succeed the most are the ones that are more specialized or more niche category shops that will excel in a category. I'd rather be a specialist than a generalist when it comes to Etsy stores. Meaning if you're in a category where you're competing with a top seller that has a lot of different products and you're just starting out and you're trying to compete with them doing all the exact same products, who do you think the buyer is going to buy from? Buying from a store that has a lot of reviews comparing to yours where you're just a similar general store, or if you have a new shop, but you're very specialized, you're very honed in on a certain category, your branding's on point, everything's talking about this exact same context, this exact same product. Most likely the buyers will buy your products over from a popular general store just because you are specialized in it. You have authority in that space. You might have less reviews, less listings, but if you market your store and be very focused in a certain category, then that's a great way to start. And over time, you can definitely expand into more categories. So let me just give you an example. If you are starting a logo template store, you want to be specialized in it. Every listing is different logo designs, maybe different colorways, and over time, once you're able to saturate that market, then you want to expand into maybe social media templates, something that feels like a natural progression to expand your product line. And also, this is something that your customers might want. They might want a logo, but over time, they probably are building a brand out of it. So offering social media templates is a good natural progression for your shop. And also another reason why you don't want to go too broad is if you're trying to tackle every single category out there, it takes a lot of time to specialize in these products. If you're doing Lightroom presets and you're dabbling into Excel templates, and then you're doing wedding invitation Canva cards, right? All these different digital products require different skills, right? It requires a huge learning curve to go through all of them. So not only is it not good for your shop to have it broad, but also for yourself, trying to learn all these different ones, creating all the different products, creating all the different mock-ups. It's just too much, and it takes time to master a certain category. So you want to make sure you spend that time, be authority in that space, and then go from there. So number 2 is a lack of research. I go on and on about the supply and demand ratios, how to find that out, right? Using places like eRank, Sales Samurai, Everbeat. But I want to talk about something a little different. Now that I've been doing this for a while, teaching people how to create a successful Etsy shop, a lot of people ask me questions like, hey, for this category, what do I do for this? What do I do for that? And for me, I take my time to try to help everyone out as I can, giving a more specialized answer for every single one that messaged me for it. But what's a quicker way for you to do is if you do your own research and actually be a customer in that category, maybe even purchasing a couple products from your competitors, right? To fully understand what it takes, what file size to make, what are the procedures, what are they uploading, right? Things like that. You can learn a lot by just doing that simple researching on your own. But not just because I want you to work on that on your own, but it's just momentum, right? You can go on Google, you can go on YouTube to try to search for every single answer you can, which you can find a lot of good information, but you can shorten that amount of time by just quickly become a consumer of it. And you can get all the answers you want and just like that really quickly. And it's just a momentum game, right? Everything that I do, even for my YouTube, for my Etsy shops, everything's all about momentum. I want to get my answers nice and quick and be in the wheel driving it and go through that process myself. So research. It's all about getting that good foundation done and understand everything you can in a category and become an expert, just like I talked about in the first stage. All these tips I'm going to go over, all these mistakes I see people make, they all make sense and that kind of all compound with each other and create some synergy for you to start. Also, if you're liking this so far, make sure to subscribe to my channel if you want to learn more about how to be successful selling on Etsy, and also sign up to my newsletter because I'm going to be opening up a private group coaching session next month. So I'll be announcing that through my newsletter. You'll be the first to know if you sign up to it. So you have a chance to get into the first initial group. So I'm super excited for that. If you want to learn more, you can use a link in my description to sign up for our newsletter to get the announcement. So number 3 is stop copying competitors. Competitor research is something I talk a lot about. I just talked about that in my earlier tips, but that's super good. But you don't want to copy them exactly. And I see a lot of people doing that. They see a winning product and they go exactly step by step how they did it to the T. Right? If you think about it, yes, you can probably get a share of that market. But if you think about it, if you have 2 products exactly the same, mock-ups, products, descriptions, everything exactly the same. You got one that has all the reviews, right? It's got authority on Etsy. Compared to yours is brand new. Who do you think the buyer is going to buy from? In most cases, they'll go for the one that's been established, right? So you need to find an edge in it. When you're creating a product, you want to research the competitors, but see how you can put a spin to it, right? Get inspirations from different categories. If you are doing, we talked about Lightroom presets earlier. If you're doing Lightroom presets, see how you can get inspirations on creating better products, creating better mockups through wedding planners, through doing ebooks, doing social media templates. Get inspirations from those different categories and see how you can bring them back into your space so you can lead that category, right? Become a leader in that space. So just to give you a quick example, here's an image of one of the shops that I own, Console Designs, where we sell plant pots. So a lot of times I would just create my product photos like this, where they're all linear, showing the different color variations. But we've been doing this for a while now, and I wanted to do something different. So instead of searching what my competitors are doing in this space, I looked around. And since I do a lot of digital product shops as well, I looked at digital planners. So here's one that I saw where this person was showcasing 3 products kind of in a staggering formation, and I thought that was super cool. So I took inspirations from that and made my product like that as well. Same kind of style, but I'm using elements from a totally different category and see how I can incorporate that into my own niche, into my own category. Here's an example. We're selling decor trays. So I wanted to find a good way to show the different variations, but also something different. So again, I looked at different categories. This one, we're looking at resume templates. And I found this staggering effect that I thought was super cool, and I applied that to our own products. And this is our home decor trays. Check it out if you're interested in getting some decor trays. But yeah, this is how we are doing our photo mockups. And this is just a quick example of how you can leverage other categories, other spaces, and try to innovate your own, right? Remixing different ideas, spin it. You're not copying exactly, but you're drawing inspiration. So this is the kind of examples that I like to see. And when I see people doing things like this, it's amazing. And you can really jump ahead and become a leader in that category. All right, so number 4 is your brand lacks consistency. So sometimes when you're starting to scale your shop, offering different products, it starts to vary, right? The different styles of the products, it becomes different. But one way on how you can pull that back and still create a very cohesive brand is through your branding. For example, the last shop, some of the photos I showed you, the products are starting to be different now, but we always keep it consistent using the same exact background. For us, we're using a gray minimalistic background, right? And the palettes are usually similar. So even though you might be doing something different, as long as your branding is still relevant and still cohesive, it just still makes sense. Okay, for the consumer, for a brand to still look professional. So keep that in mind. And a couple easy ways on how you can just quickly assure that your branding stays on point is your font choice. Before you start, you want to make sure that you have a selected font style that you're using on everything, right? In your images, in your logos, in your banners, and your color palette. So make sure that all those are in line from how you start. And if you want to start pivoting, that's totally fine, right? Sometimes a brand evolves. So you don't want to be stuck in the same way. As you evolve, keep it consistent as you're evolving. All right, so number 5 is not listening to feedback or analytics. So if you're at this point and you're like, hey, Brian, every things that you listed earlier, I'm doing them all correctly, none of this is applicable to me, then perfect. If you've done all that, then at this point you should be getting traction. You should be getting traffic and views. And once you're getting traffic, this is where the fun part happens. This is where you can actually start collecting that data and see how you can improve on it. Get that customer feedback and let the data and feedback just kind of steer the wheel a bit and navigate where your shop can be. It's easy for you to have a vision of what everything needs to look like, on how you're pushing a certain idea through the products and everything. But sometimes you need to get that feedback loops in order to improve, even in any e-commerce brand or anything like that, even on Etsy shop. You need to get that feedback loop. You need to always adapt to new changes, see what's working, double down on it, and the things that aren't working, you let that sit and not to try to put more efforts into it. Most of the time it's better to continue working on what's been working already and just double down on that. So for example, if you got some products that are getting a lot of views, getting a lot of favorites, but maybe no one's actually committing that buyer's journey and finishing and making that purchase, what you want to do is create variations of it because you know that there's traction to it, but maybe it's the color, the style, the pricing. Play around with it until you get to that sweet point where people are finishing up that purchasing journey, but don't just ignore everything and just create what you feel like it's going to be good. It works a lot of times, but I like to play both sides of it, right? Using your own creativity, knowing what's good for you, but also incorporating that feedback. All right, so number 6 is incomplete or unclear policies. So this is actually a more technical one, right? It's not as high level, but you want to make sure that you have all these shop policies in place. A lack of clarity into the policies makes it confusing for the customers, and it actually might not bring them through that purchasing journey. They might lose trust and be like, hey, you know what? They don't do refunds. Maybe I'll go for someone else that can put that through. And especially if you're a new seller, you got to get that trust. So one way is definitely offering that refund. And if you're doing digital products, your products are essentially free anyways. So it's not that much of a risk for you, even if they do a return. You might lose some in the processing fee, but it's not that big of a deal. The pro of increasing your conversion rate outweighs the con of having to refund your product to the consumer. So number 7, it might be a bit cliche, but it's giving up too soon. I talk a lot about this one a lot, but I just really need to keep talking about this because this is one of the most important ones. I can talk about all these different tactics, all these different things, saying that, hey, selling on Etsy is worth it. But at the end of the day, if you don't believe in it, if you're quitting it too soon, none of it really matters, right? So I need to keep saying this. And especially in this position now, I'm talking to a lot more Etsy sellers. And a lot of times I'll be investing a lot of my time in helping someone getting into a category, helping them build up the products, giving revisions, just spending a lot of time into it. And then when I was talking to, they messaged me last week and saying, hey, Brandon, I was doing this category, but as I was in the middle of it, building up my products, the 16 listings you talked about, I saw something else, right? I want to do something different now because I feel like there's a better return in it. What's your advice? Should I switch? Should I stick with what I'm doing? I'm not sure if it's going to be working. And for me, that's the whole shiny object syndrome. This is another topic, but all these ideas that the person had, they will all work, right? It's not like the first is not going to be as profitable or lucrative as the second one. They're both going to be just as fine. One might be making more, one might be easier, one might be better for a certain individual. But at the end of the day, it's not so much the idea, but how you execute it, okay? And the worst thing you can do is create a couple listings, put it out there, and be, hey, I'm not getting the traction, so I'm gonna quit right now, go for something else. The same thing's gonna happen. You're gonna do that new thing. You might find something else that's more interesting, things like AI, which is amazing, but that's a whole different conversation I talk about. But keep jumping to different things without seeing it through. It's not going to work out. That's why when I talk about building at least 16 to 24 listings for digital products is go through that process, regardless of what the data shows you. At the end of the day, then you can reassess. But don't quit too soon. It's one of the biggest mistakes. None of this matters if you guys don't follow through and go with that stage and make sure everything's right. Because, data shows like these things work. These strategies I talk about, as long as you implement it correctly, you execute it correctly, you will see success in it. That's gonna last one, bit of a ramble at the end, but I just want to make it clear that it does work. You just need to go through that process and just don't quit too soon, okay? And don't keep switching from things to things and not committing. So me rambling again, but if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you want to learn more about how to be successful selling on Etsy, and subscribe to my newsletter. I'll be announcing something soon about my private group coaching session next month, so that'd be super exciting. I'm excited to get a good group going and see how I can actually truly help and be there step by step in the process. So until then, hope you enjoyed it. Leave a comment, let me know any questions you have, and take care. Bye.